Live from Radio Monterey on California's beautiful Central Coast, this is the Ringside Boxing Show. I'm your host, Dennis Taylor, inviting you to join me and my expert analysts, Travis Hartman, Rizwan Zahid, and John J. Responti, today and every Sunday at ringsideboxingshow.com for the hottest, sweatiest boxing show on the West Coast. And don't forget to download TuneIn, our free app, so you can listen to us every Sunday on your smartphone. And now, from Studio 1A, it's the Ringside Boxing Show. Hey, welcome to the Ringside Boxing Show. I'm Dennis Taylor, and we got a happy Mother's Day, everybody. First of all, boxing fans. Great show planned for you today. In a few minutes, we are going to be talking to the man behind the man. He's the guy who's training the most feared fighter in the sport, Gennady Golovkin. The last time Abel Sanchez was on our show, a lot of people were just starting to learn about Golovkin, and Abel told us then that he was going to be the best he'd ever worked with, and this comes from a guy who helped terrible Terry Norris to the pound-for-pound list a couple of decades ago. And terrible Terry's in the Hall of Fame, of course, so stick around because in about 20 minutes or so, we will be talking to Abel Sanchez from his state-of-the-art facility up in Big Bear Lake, which is about 8,000 feet above sea level. Sam Garcia also is going to be joining us in just a few minutes to talk about his middleweight, Paul Mendez, who's 17-2 and hadn't lost a fight in about 4 years since he hooked up with Garcia Boxing, and he'll be back in the ring early next month in Salinas. So we'll find out a little bit about Sam about that. But first, let's go to our expert analyst. John J. Responti is chief lead writer for Doghouse Boxing and MaxBoxing.com. Rizwan Zahid is a boxing journalist from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and Travis Hartman is a professional boxer from Osborne, Missouri, now living and training in West Palm Beach, Florida. I think Travis is on a jet back from France right now. His younger brother Drew has a big fight coming up, so Travis was coming back from watching his girlfriend play tennis, but I believe we have John and Rizwan with us today. Gentlemen, how are you?
Good, man. How are you?
Hey, Dennis. How you doing? Hi, Riz.
Doing good.
Good.
Either one of you guys have a radio going on right now? Because I'm getting some feedback.
No, I don't.
Neither one of you.
No, not at all.
Okay. Maybe it'll fix itself. All right. Hey, guys, I don't think anybody really felt like they saw the fight of the century last week, but I'm wondering if we did not witness the knockout of the century last night when Canelo Alvarez annihilated James Kirkland. Riz, have you ever seen a knockout more resounding than that one, at least in recent memory? I've only been watching boxing for about 50 years or so, but I don't know if I have. That one was one for the ages, I think.
It's up there, man. It's it's right up there with Sergio Martinez, Paul Williams, those kind of one-punch finishes that just shock you. And this one was actually a little more not as surprising as the Paul Williams one, just because that was actually quite close, even at that point, which is a 1% change. But this is what makes Canelo so different, I think, than any other fighter. I mean, if you want to compare him to Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao from last week, I mean, he's one of those guys. He's a ticket seller. He'll put butts in seats.
Yep.
But he also wants to fight the best, and he has power that goes all with it. So he's an entertaining fighter. He wants to fight the best. For the most part, I'd say he's fought some pretty good competition, especially considering he's 24 and his only loss is against arguably the best fighter of his generation. And compare him to Pacquiao, yes, Pacquiao's entertaining. Yes, he has a knockout power, but for the most part, he really hasn't fought everyone the last few years. I mean, Canelo is saying he wants to fight Golovkin. I mean, most guys, how many guys do you hear, Demetrius Andrade, all these other guys who don't sell nearly as many tickets as Canelo, when they ask about Golovkin, they say, oh, you know what, if the money is right. They'll give one of those kind of cliche political answers. Not the case with Golovkin. I mean, Golovkin could easily say, well, you know what, Canelo could easily say Golovkin doesn't have the tickets or the ticket power or the money that he brings, so it doesn't make me want to fight him. But no, he's not saying that. He says, I want Cotto and I want Canelo. And honestly, I think he beats Cotto quite easily. I just think he has a huge size advantage. He knows how to box. And that's the other thing with Canelo. He's not as one-dimensional as he looks. I mean, yesterday, Kirkland was backing him up right away, so he decided to box and just counterpunch a little more. Every time I see Canelo, I think when people say boxing is dead, I think they have to watch Canelo a little more. I mean, this guy potentially could be the star of the sport for the next 10 years. I mean, he reminds me of Oscar De La Hoya in so many ways, just in terms of the entertainment value, the fact that everyone knows him. I mean, this is a guy who's fighting in San Antonio, and there's 31,000 people there. I mean, there's no way boxing can be dead when a guy who maybe a lot of people don't necessarily know about, but Alvarez is the future of boxing. I think more so than Andre Ward, more so than even Terrence Crawford. I think Canelo is a guy who really brings out everyone internationally.
So, John Kirkland's reckless aggression reminds me of the maniac who somehow beat Vernon Forrest twice. He's a mauler like Ricardo Mayorga. He's a mad hornet, but guys like him tend to be all or nothing. And last night the Hornet had a head-on collision with a windshield, I think. I turned on my wife. And when it was over, and said, "That's exactly what I thought was going to happen." Kirkland's game plan, if you can call it that, was like a suicide bomber. There's a chance you're going to take out your target, but you're not really likely to survive to admire your work afterwards. Does Kirkland have a future left? John?
It's a good question, Dennis. He's a very aggressive fighter. His defense is very limited, and he's kill or be killed. And last night he got killed. I mean, it looked like he was dead when he hit the canvas. You and I were talking about this, and the way he went down on his back like that, and his eyes, they were kind of closed and kind of open. It was pretty scary. Reminded me, by the way, of the way Carl Froch took care of George Groves. Very dramatic, one punch, boom. And the fact that he was slurring his words afterwards was also something that was a concern. He'll be back though. He'll fight again because he's exciting, and he always comes to fight, and he is the warrior. And he also will put butts in the seat. So is it good for his future? Probably not, because he's not cheating. I don't agree with that. He just doesn't have any defense.
Yeah.
Canelo was hitting him with just about everything with the kitchen sink. And what I was really impressed about Canelo, and I don't know if this is mentioned very often, maybe it is, I don't hear it very often, is, he was backed up, like Riz said, but he stayed very calm, and he just stayed there on the ropes and worked off the ropes and did his thing. So I think if anything impressed me more, it was that. And then, of course, his right hand was just dynamic. So he's a star, and he's a good role model for boxing. And it's going to be fun to watch him fight Cotto in the fall. And I agree with Riz. I think he beats Cotto.
So, Riz, I want to switch for just a second to the commentary Max Kellerman made before last night's main event in defense of Manny Pacquiao, who really had a rough week in the media. Pacquiao's been taken to task to the point of becoming a target of class action suits for going through with the Mayweather fight with a torn rotator cuff in his shoulder. And I can understand why fans were upset that the fight of the century was a waste of the $90 they paid to watch it at home. But I think Kellerman really put the whole thing into a perspective from Manny's point of view, which was something that nobody else had done. It took 5 or 6 years to get Floyd in the ring. The arena was sold out. The hotels were full of fans who had flown in from all over the country and spent their money for airfare, and all over the world, really. And there had been 2 months of relentless hype. Floyd's supposedly retiring by the end of the year. Who can blame Manny for gutting out the pain, which is what we demand from every boxer, really, and trying to win the fight? That's what he was trying to do. What would we have said if he had pulled out with 2 weeks left? It was literally a lose-lose situation for Pacquiao, and he chose, I think, to please the fans, and everybody got mad at him. So I thought Kellerman had a great point. I can see both sides of it, but which side do you come down on?
I think you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, it was a lose-lose situation. I think he picked, the winner of the loss, if that makes sense. At least the fight happened. I think what bothers people more than anything else is right after the fight, that was his excuse. And in that regard, it seems like he kind of had a pre-built excuse going in. And let's face it, I mean, let's not ignore the big fat millions of dollar elephant that was in the room. I mean, you can't tell me that didn't play part in his in his mind frame of what he was planning to do, if he was planning to go through with the fight or not. I mean, it's really hard to leave that money on the door. I'm sure a lot of us would put up with the torn rotator cuff for a couple weeks for that money too. I think now Kellerman's blaming the Nevada State Athletic Commission. I don't fully agree with him on that. And as bad as a commission usually is, I mean, there's obviously some kind of, he said there's a clerical error, but I mean, that's kind of a big error. I mean, you're not checking, saying that you had an injury, and you're requesting this cortisol shot beforehand. And I don't know what the commission's usually standpoint is, or any commission usually stand on any sort of injection of any sort before a fight. I mean, you can obviously wonder and obviously think there's reasons why they don't allow that. But I think Manny's side had to have done a better job, and I think Manny's side should have done a better job in terms of warning him of what could happen if he loses, or even just prepping him better in that regard, or even at least doing the paperwork correctly. I mean, if he had an injury, I mean, it's the kind of thing you would remember when you're filling out a form, I would think. So I don't blame Manny as much for I'm glad he went through with it rather than not going through with it. But I totally understand why fans are upset, because, I mean, it seems like in many ways Pacquiao and his side, not just him, so everyone in his camp is kind of going through with the fight knowing they're not 100%. And I mean, and you know what, I'm watching the fight. I was watching a bit of the replay yesterday. I mean, it didn't seem like his injury happened more during the fight than before, if that makes sense. I'm not saying it didn't affect his performance at all, but I mean, would it surprise anyone? Would it have surprised everyone if there was no injury and it would have been the exact same result? I don't think a new fight would make a different result. And Roy Jones said the same thing. I didn't notice a one-arm Pacquiao last week. It seemed like it was the exact same fighter that we usually see. It was just Mayweather had a dominant performance. And you know what? As weird as it sounds, I think Mayweather deserves some credit here. I mean, here's a guy people said he was never going to step in the ring with, and he beat him quite easily. And I think it's time to give Mayweather a little credit for beating Pacquiao like that.
This is the Ringside Boxing Show from Monterey, California. We're talking to Rizwan Zahid and John J. Rispanti. They're our expert analysts. They're with us every week. Sam Garcia, boxing trainer's coming up in a few minutes, as is Abel Sanchez in the second half of the show. John, I think you and I have talked about this guy before, but is Lawrence Cole the worst referee in all of boxing? I actually go beyond that. I think he's a corrupt referee. But he deducted 2 points from Ricky Burns yesterday, and they were both kind of controversial. What did you see yesterday? What do you think of Lawrence Cole?
He is hands down the worst referee in the game, and that's true. And you don't want to say something libelous about somebody, but it just seems like every fight that he's involved in, there's something strange or controversial. Yeah. And here it was again. He keeps pulling down Ricky Burns' hand, or fist, glove, whatever you want to say. He keeps lecturing him. He keeps telling him to stop holding, while Omar Figueroa is doing the same thing. He's not saying anything to Omar. Omar is the local guy. Do the math. It just seems very strange and very and not surprising. That was the part that just made me roll my eyes as I was watching it. Virgil Hunter picked up on it right away. So did Paulie Malignaggi. They were, it just would be nice if a guy can go to another guy's hometown or near his hometown and get a fair shake. That's all you really want. And with Lawrence Cole, it just appears that he's a homer. That he's for the home guy, and that's every time. And that's the problem. Is that, like I said, when it's his guy, he does things. Those 2 points were critical, and even the scoring was ridiculous. I don't know what those judges were watching, having Figueroa win that fight 9-3. That fight was close. That fight was really close. Now, Ricky Burns got a gift decision over Ray Beltran a few years ago, same kind of deal in his hometown. Mm-hmm. We don't want to talk karma here, but like I said a minute ago, it would just be nice if we didn't have that kind of stuff. But we do. Even in basketball, sometimes they say that, you got the home court advantage in more ways than one. But in boxing, it's ridiculous. And the guy keeps getting hired, I think, because his daddy is the commissioner there in Texas. I mean, I don't know the story, But when I heard that he was going to referee, I just groaned. And I thought, here we go again. And then, man, it didn't take him long to start saying things and getting himself in the way. And that's a bad referee. A guy that's in the way, causing problems, to me, is a bad referee. Stay out of the way. Let the guys fight. So it was just not surprising. And that's the part that I hate saying, Dennis, and I'm sure you agree, is that it didn't surprise us at all yesterday.
Nope. You expected with Lawrence Cole. All right, guys, we got to get to Sam Garcia. These two guys are the best in the business, John J. Responti and Rizwan Zahid, along with our third analyst, who should be back next week, Travis Hartman. Thank you, gentlemen. We will see you next week.
You bet. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and hopefully be back with Sam Garcia in just about a minute and a half. Hi, I'm Dennis Taylor, host of the Ringside Boxing Show, where since 2008 we have been continuously sponsored by Garcia Boxing, the first family of the sweet science on California's beautiful Central Coast. Trainers Max and Sam Garcia and ring strategist Dean Familton are regarded among the most knowledgeable in the game. And Kathy Garcia, who manages all Garcia boxing fighters, is renowned for her integrity and career guidance, having taken 2 boxers to #1 world rankings. Together they comprise one of the most respected teams in the sport. We thank Garcia Boxing for its continued support of the Ringside Boxing Show. Learn more by calling 831-261-3214 or send them an email at garciaboxing25@aol.com. And if you'd like to become a sponsor of this show, send me an email at contact@ringsideboxingshow.com.
Put 'em up, put 'em up! Which one are you first? I'll fight you both together if you want. I'll fight you with one paw tied behind my back. I'll fight you standing on one foot. I'll fight you with my eyes closed. Oh, pulling an axe on me, eh? Sneaking up on me, eh? Why?
You're listening to the Ringside Boxing Show, the hottest, sweatiest hour on West Coast radio.
Yes, you are. Sam Garcia of Garcia Boxing is co-trainer with his father, Max, of middleweight Paul Mendez, who's 17-2-2 with 8 knockouts and undefeated in his past, I think it's 11 fights in a row over a period of about 4 years since joining Garcia Boxing. Paul returns to the ring next month in Salinas, and Sam Garcia joins us right now to talk about that. Sam, welcome back to the Ringside Boxing Show. How goes it, man?
Oh, it's going good. I'm just hanging out with a couple friends and had a good Mother's Day this morning, so just getting ready for the World Series of Poker, actually, in a couple weeks. Get to head out to Vegas for a while. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, but my dad and Paul will be getting ready for the big fight in Salinas, targeting a pretty good opponent, so should be a fun night.
Are you at liberty to talk about the opponent yet?
For your show, I'm at liberty to talk about anything.
Good deal. All right, man. Who is it? Who are you going to fight?
I think the guy is named Pinzon or something. I don't know. I can't pronounce his name.
Okay.
He's a tough Mexican fighter, but I think he's like 28-6. So if you can put that together,
okay.
He's like 28-6 with a lot of knockouts. You know, he's a step up. Fought a lot of tough guys. Great record, and so it's just fitting if we can get it. If we can put it together in Salinas, that'd be just awesome. So just something great for the hometown fans to be able to come and watch a great fight.
What date are you guys looking at?
Right now we have it narrowed down to June 26th or 27th, which would be all depend on the politics of it, which would be Golden Boy Promotions is possibly going to be involved, and if that's the case, then it'll be a Fox Sports 1 event on a Friday night. And if it's a non-Golden Boy event, which would be more of a Don Chargan, Paco, Damian Presents fight, that would be June 27th, off TV, no TV involved, and it would be a show on a Saturday night. But we're still targeting the same opponent for both shows, and so either way, the fans of Salinas that are going to show up are going to get a treat regardless. So, I mean, I would love for Fox Sports 1 and Golden Boy to be involved just because it's great exposure for Paul and moving forward with his career, trying to get into the contendership area, which I think we're approaching pretty fast here.
Are you looking at the Storm House as a venue again?
Yeah, it should be the Storm House.
Good.
If everything goes well. It's coming up quick, so there's a lot of things that have to fall into place, like permits and things like that, a lot of legwork. My mom, Kathy Garcia, does a lot of it, and it's just, it could be a little overwhelming at times, so we're just hoping, you got to keep your fingers crossed. Like, this is boxing, anything can happen, and there's money involved, there's different people involved, so I don't want to I don't want to get your hopes up and then, disappoint you that the fight's moved to San Francisco or somewhere like that. I don't know, but June 26th up to the minute would be June 26th or 27th at the Storm House in Salinas. So, we just keep our fingers crossed and hope everything falls into place accordingly, and everything should be fine.
Sam, three of Paul's last 4 fights have been short ones. A couple of 3-rounders and one 1-rounder that ended when his opponent tore shoulder muscle. Do you guys come out of fights like those feeling shortchanged a little, that you didn't get the educational value you were hoping for Paul?
Well, no, because my dad puts a lot of work in the gym, and anytime that you get into a fight, I think there is moments where there's sporadic moments where you think okay, we need rounds, we need experience, actual live fighting, rather than just sparring or doing mitt work or bag work. But anytime you get out of a fight with a win, you can't take it for granted, especially at this point in Paul's career. You're at the point where you're so close to that point where you can get a call from anybody and anywhere for a big fight. So, he's approaching the 20-win, mark. Mm-hmm. And in that case, it's kind of an unwritten, unspoken rule in boxing where it's hey, once you get up to 20 wins, you're going to get a shot somewhere. Somebody somewhere is going to give you a shot, and it's up to you to take advantage of that. So, hey, if we can get a win in the first couple rounds, then it's fine by me,
Are you guys training in Salinas for this one, or are you up at Big Bear with Abel?
Right now we're training in Salinas and also going up to. Right now, Paul's been sparring Willie Nelson up in Undisputed Boxing Gym. Not the Willie Nelson, but the other Willie Nelson.
The other
Willie Nelson.
Travis fought him, yeah.
Yeah. He's a very good fighter, very, tough, long, strong fighter. So he's getting work with him, sporadically with Rudy Puga Jr., who is also, training and stuff like that. So there's some good work. There's some good work around here, enough for Paul to get ready as of right now, enough for him to get ready. If things fall apart or if something happens and we can't get sparring here, then they'll make the move to probably Big Bear, Oxnard, or something like that. But as of right now, Salinas is the place that we're training.
This is the Ringside Boxing Show from Monterey, California. I'm Dennis Taylor. We're talking to Sam Garcia from Garcia Boxing. We got Abel Sanchez coming up right after the mid-show break to talk about his guy, Gennady Golovkin, and also Mike Perez. Sam, there's a question this is the last question for you, but this is a question I've been anxious to ask you. A lot of people, in particular fighters, think Al Heyman's really great for the sport. A lot of other people see him as one of the evil guys in the sport, a guy who could do damage by controlling so many fighters, which he does. Where do you come down on that one? Do you like what Al Heyman's done for the sport, to the sport?
Only time will tell. He's definitely changed the mentality of fighters, I think. I don't like the new mentality of a fighter, which is I'm going to fight the lowest opponent possible for the highest amount of money.
Yeah.
Because then it gets to the point where, okay, well, Uncle Al Heyman is giving me $900,000 to fight Joe Schmo on HBO or Showtime, and then now you have to fight a real fighter, and now they can't put the fight together because he's, the A-side fighter is say, hey, I just fought this guy for $900,000. Now you want me to step up and fight the number one contender or another world champion for just $100,000 more? You're going to have to give me double or a little bit more than that, and then things start falling apart, and he doesn't want to work with other promoters, and he doesn't want to work with certain sanctioning bodies. I mean, if you notice on NBC, they don't mention, WBC or WBA or IBF. They just say World Championship.
Yeah.
So I think eventually he's trying to monopolize the sport. I mean, only time will tell if that's good or that's bad for the sport. I mean, if we're on the outside looking in, which we are right now, of course Al Heyman's the enemy. But if Al Heyman's signing Paul Mendez's checks and they're 6 figures or more, then I'll probably be shaking his hand and giving him daps as much as anybody else. So,
All right, well said.
That's the only way you can look at it at this point. It's politics. I mean, if you're not with them, you're against them. If you're with them, then you got to go to war for them. So that's just how it is in this boxing business. That's why we try to do it the right way. Sometimes it's successful, sometimes it doesn't work out, but that's all we can do.
All right, that's boxing trainer Sam Garcia. He's got Paul Mendez fight coming up either the 26th or 27th of next month at the Storm House in Salinas, and he's also a future World Poker champion. Good luck in Vegas with the World Poker Championships, man.
All right, tell Abel Sanchez I said what's up.
Okay.
I miss the big guy.
All right, take care, Sam.
All right,
Sam Garcia on the Ringside Boxing Show.
Odious, contemptible, deplorable. I'm speaking of offending in the personal grooming arena. Something I would, of course, consider quite beyond the pale. So I give you a new Red Guard Sports Stick, antiperspirant and deodorant. When one needs to seek maximum protection and a fresh new scent, one should grab oneself one of these Red Guard Sports Sticks, because one would hate to be considered malodorous by one's chums. Now, wouldn't one? New Red Guard Sports Sticks from Gillette. Anything less would be uncivilized.
I can whoop anything on 2 legs, but even me, the greatest, needs help beating things with 6 legs. I mean roaches. I'm gonna show you how you can whoop roaches with Decon Power, Decon Forgone. It's not like regular sprays. Forgone is an automatic room fogger. It wipes out roaches in the whole room. I don't want you living with roaches. Wipe them out with Decon Power. Decon, more power to you.
When you order a beer, do like Smoking Joe. Order light beer from Miller and say no more. It's got the 3rd less calories than the regular beer. Light tastes great, y'all, but listen here. It's not the thing that makes me shout. Light's less feeling, hey, that really knocks me out.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer and less.
All right, today's featured guest has trained a long line of champions and stars, including Terry and Orland Morris, Miguel Angel Gonzalez, Samuel Peter, Jesus Salud, Carlos Baldemir, Luis Carlos Abregu, and currently heavyweight Mike Perez, who fights Alexander Povetkin in Russia on May 22nd. And especially Gennady Golovkin, who is the most avoided fighter in the sport. And we'll see him Saturday night on HBO against Willie Monroe Jr. From the mountains of Big Bear Lake, we are pleased to welcome Abel Sanchez for his second appearance on the Ringside Boxing Show. Abel, how are you, sir?
I am doing great. How are you guys?
Fantastic, man. So how's the weather today at 8,000 feet above sea level?
Actually, it's about 80 degrees around 1 o'clock, and it's starting to cool down now, but it was a beautiful, bright, sunny, blue sky day.
Man, I would not have guessed that, 80 degrees. Holy cow. All right. So when a fighter first arrives at that altitude to train at your facility, what does he feel, and how long does it take him to adjust to feel normal again? I'm a Colorado boy, so I can ask this question. I know what altitude's about.
Right. Well, the first couple of days are the first day is okay. The second day starts to get a little bit difficult. Between the 4th and the 7th day really is the most difficult period of time for the athlete, because they start to feel the oxygen being lessened to what they're accustomed to, and then by the time we get to the 10th day, then it subsides and they're back to being in shape as they felt like when they were off the mountain. So it usually takes about 10 days for them to acclimate.
It's kind of harder at altitude to get your breath back, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's like I said, between 3 and 7, it's It's like, what's the matter with me? Your throat tightens up and you can't breathe and you get tired a lot quicker. But once you get to the 10th day and you go off the mountain after that, it's wow, I can operate on 50% of the oxygen I was operating on before.
So why do you think it helps? What's the theory or the science behind it all?
Well, there is, if you look at the internet and you look at some of the reports, 50% of the doctors agree with altitude training and 50% don't agree. It's like everything, there's always detractors. But I think the most important part is if the athlete comes up in great shape and comes up here and then he has trouble breathing and trouble going, say, 10 rounds that they were going before, they can only go 4 or 5. And then once that passes in the 10th day, they become acclimated and they can go 10. Then in their mind, mentally, they're better for it. So it doesn't really matter to me whether a doctor or scientists agree with it or disagree with it. If the athlete believes it, that's the only important part that I care about.
Talking to Abel Sanchez on the Ringside Boxing Show. You are the trainer, the guy that everybody in the sport talks about, but nobody really seems to want to face. Gennady Golovkin, who's now 32-0, 29 KOs. We're going to see him again Saturday night against Willie Monroe Jr., who's a slick southpaw, 19-1, 6 KOs. What do you expect from Monroe that night? What are you hoping to get from him this coming weekend?
I know that Willie's going to be in great shape. Tony Morgan is a very good coach. Mm-hmm. I know Willie, the first 3 or 4 rounds are going to be difficult for us because just like with Manny and with Floyd, the speed and the movement and all that will be something that Gennady has to get accustomed to. But I think once the 4th and 5th round starts and Gennady gets his range and gets to keen in on him, it's going to be very difficult for Willie. Gennady is probably the biggest punch I've ever worked with. He's cuts off the ring real well, and it's difficult to get away from him, I should say. So I'm looking for hopefully a difficult 3 or 4 rounds at the beginning, and like I said, and then let's see what happens in the second part of the fight.
Now, I saw somewhere this week that Gennady is actually like an 80-1 betting favorite, and for a lot of trainers, that's like homecoming week for a football team. With a lot of fighters, it might be worrisome. But Golovkin seems to be a guy who doesn't need a lot of motivation in the gym. He's self-motivated. Is his mental approach different from most other fighters that you've coached?
No, he understands. And some of the higher echelon guys like Terry Norris and Miguel Angel Gonzalez and Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather understand that one punch can change things. Mm-hmm. And anybody can hurt anybody. It doesn't matter if he's only got 6 knockouts or 10 knockouts. If you hit them on the button, he's going to get hurt. And most of these guys, as you saw in the Glenn Tapia Michelle Soro fight, who Michelle Soro trained up here with us for that fight, one punch can change the whole outcome of a fight. And once you get somebody hurt, it's so easy. These guys at that level can throw 20 punches in seconds, so they can put you out. So his motivation is that he understands, as he puts it, his situation. He is being considered, pound for pound fighter, and he needs to perform every time he goes out. That he can't have an off night. So if Willie's in shape, he could be the next middleweight champion if Gennady has an off night. So Gennady is very focused on Willie Monroe, and come Saturday night, we will see that.
Did he have that mentality, that work ethic when he came to you? And if so, where do you think it came from? Did he have a really difficult early life?
He had the mentality of hard work. I think that guys that come from that region over there, the Eastern European guys, Asian guys, just work harder than our guys do here. They're just accustomed to a hard life, and nothing is given to them. But he didn't understand the professional part of the sport. When he came here and I showed him a couple videos, and one of them was Edwin Rosario versus Julio Chavez Sr., he understood what my philosophy was and what I needed to do. Now, I think after 5 years with him, I think it's now his responsibility that he understands to perform. His responsibility to his fans, his responsibility to HBO, to his managers, to his family, to make sure that he's 100% and that he performs like he's been performing in the past.
How did you two find each other? What's the story?
Actually, Max Herman and Oleg Herman called me one Saturday morning and wanted to see my gym, and Gennady wanted to meet me, and I had just opened up my gym a couple years before that, and they came up on afternoon Saturday, and Gennady and I watched some videos that he brought with him. The managers went off into town and checked out the town. Gennady and I spoke boxing. We threw what I thought he could do and what he could do different, and some of the mistakes he was making. We had dinner that night. The next morning we had breakfast, and as they leave to go to the airport, the managers and Gennady said, "We'll see you in a couple months." That night, Saturday night, I researched him and I found out who he was. I had no clue who he was before he came up.
Really?
Yeah, and I researched him and I found out, wow, this kid had 350 amateur fights. He beat a lot of the big names, and he's got 17 in a row right now. He's not known. His style is not conducive to the American market. So the next day when they said, "We'll see you in a couple months," I thought, yeah, sure, and the check's in the mail too.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you. Best of luck in your future. Sure enough, 2 months later, I get a call on a Saturday morning telling me he comes in on Sunday the next day at LAX, and honestly, it was a shock to me. I didn't really think he was going to come back. Sure enough, he came back. We started working on that next Monday. That was back in I would say March of 2010, April of 2010, and we've been together ever since.
How quickly did you realize you had somebody special? Was it the first time you held the mitts for him, or
the first time I caught him on the mitts? Absolutely. You can coaches that have been doing this for a while have sensors, I guess, in your hands, and once I caught him, that's one thing we can't teach. We're not magicians. If these guys can punch, they can punch. We can perfect it a little bit and make it a little bit better, but if they come with punching power, they come with punching power. We were able to define the technique and positions and discipline and all that to make him a little better puncher, a more accurate puncher, but his hands were heavy at the beginning, and I thought, oh my goodness, we have something here. So it's right off the bat, right as soon as I caught him the first time.
Was he coachable from day one?
Absolutely. When I showed him that video of Chavez Sr., I asked him to give me 3 years. I put his name on the board. I put 1 through 12 on the board, and I put Muhammad Ali at the top and left number 2 vacant, and then went down the line with Robinson, Pacquiao, Mayweather, all these guys. And I said to him, if you give me 3 years, I promise you I'm going to put you right there at number 2. You're going to be the most avoided fighter. You're going to be middleweight champion of the world. Nobody's going to want to fight you. We're going to have a difficult time getting you fights. And he looked at me like I was joking, like cheatishly, like I was joking. Oh, come on, coach. And he was embarrassed, actually. And sure enough, he hasn't questioned anything. He hasn't. He's been a student. He does what I asked him to do. He is very, very coachable. And for a coach to get a guy that's got 350 amateur fights, silver medal in the Olympics, all kinds of world championship titles, to be able to change for me and to adapt to what I wanted him to do, I was great. I mean, there's nothing else you can ask for. And to this day, he's the same guy he was 5 years ago.
Abel Sanchez is our guest on the Ringside Boxing Show. We're coming to you live from Monterey, California, streaming worldwide from on RadioMonterey.com. Just from the outside looking in, for me, Golovkin seems like a guy who is probably almost completely devoid of ego. He seems like the world's most positive guy, a guy who really is enjoying this ride. He's always smiling. What kind of personality does Gennady have? Is he laid back? Is he intense as hell? Is he funny? What's he like?
About 3 years ago, somebody asked a similar question, and his English wasn't as good back then, and his answer was, "I have a wonderful life."
Yeah.
And they asked him about the sport. About boxing. This is a sport. I'm a sportsman. I'm not mad at anybody. I have a wonderful life. I'm not mad at my opponent. We're trying to do a job. I'm just trying to win. And now he's going to be my friend after. So he's the same guy that you see, that you envision. He's the same guy in the gym. For me to have him in the gym as a leader, all the younger guys in the gym benefit. Sometimes I just sit back and allow him to do some talking to these guys, because he's imparting wisdom that is only attained by the success that he's had. And some of these younger kids are just taking it all in. And to me, it's a pleasure to watch somebody that has no ego, has no chip on his shoulder. He's so sure of himself. He knows that come fight night, he's going to prove who he is, and he doesn't have to prove it while he's talking to anybody or while he's walking around in the gym and making sure that everybody bows down to him. He is a really, really humble guy.
Does he have a sense of humor? Is he a guy who will pull a practical joke every once in a while or anything?
He's actually the one that's telling the jokes in the gym.
Really?
I mean, they're corny. Sometimes they're corny jokes because his sense of humor is a lot different than, say, Joel Diaz and some of the other, Julius Jackson and some of these guys. But he has a sense of humor that sometimes he tells jokes that it takes a little while to catch it, but you understand what he's trying to say. And most of the jokes are about the business that we're in. Most of the jokes are about some guy getting hit or some guy falling or some guy getting doing some exercises. But he is a funny kid. He's always laughing. He's in a good mood all the time, and that transcends in the gym because all the other guys are in a good mood too.
Was America any kind of a culture shock for Gennady?
No, I think with 350 amateur fights, I think he had a chance to see a lot of the world.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, he was in Chicago one time. He was, different parts of the world. So I think that he understands culture and he understands the difference in how people live and how people act. So I don't think so. I think that by the time he got to me here, he already 17 fights in Germany. So it wasn't such a culture shock.
So he did something a while ago that just cracked me up and really impressed me. I think it might have been after the Rubio fight at StubHub. He took the microphone and he spoke Spanish to the crowd. I don't think anybody was expecting that at all from a Russian guy. Does he actually speak some Spanish, or did he rehearse a few lines for that occasion?
No, one of his proteges, I guess you could say, or one of the kids that looks at him as a mentor is a kid named Joel Diaz Jr. that I have in the gym. He's 18 or 19 or something like that. And Joel and him are always going back and forth, and I think it was Joel's doing that he kind of taught him a couple words because the Russians try to teach the Mexicans and the Americans, and the French guy is Russian, and the French try to, they all mix their languages together, and I think that was Joel's doing, actually.
Okay. He's got what they call a Mexican fighting style, and his fan base seems to be real popular among Mexicans and Mexican Americans.
When I first started with him, like I said, I showed him a videotape of Senior, Julio Chavez Senior, and my message to him was that if we're going to be fighting in America, we need to have a style that's conducive to the American public. Not a war, like go to war and get hit with every shot, but good defense, good offense, knockouts. That's what the American public wants to see. That's what puts butts in the seats, and that's what sells pay-per-views, and that's what sells HBO subscriptions for people to watch. So he understood that, and being with 17 fights in Germany and not really getting that recognition, he was willing to make a little of a change to modify his style. And I think that the Mexican public have gravitated to him because it reminds them of the greats, Abel Sanchez, Olivares, Julio Cesar Chavez, and Miguel Delgado, some of those guys that actually fought and gave the public their money's worth. So I think that the Mexican public has noticed that and, like I said, gravitated to him.
Our guest is Abel Sanchez on the Ringside Boxing Show. He's talking to us from Big Bear Lake, where he's got a huge state-of-the-art boxing facility up there. Nobody's gone the distance against Gennady since 2008. That's 7 years. It's before you were even training him, and that was a 13-9 guy who heard the final bell in an 8-rounder in Denmark. Is that streak important to Golovkin at all? No.
I said maybe 3 years ago when we started on the run on this championship run that there was nobody at 154 or 160 pounds that would go 12 rounds with him. I felt that there was a couple guys at 168, but nobody at 160 could do that. But that was just me saying it. Golovkin has never mentioned this streak, has never mentioned a knockout. To him, if it's a 12 round, he actually wants to go 12 rounds, believe it or not. He actually wants to know that he can go 12 rounds. The Murray fight came close, but it was too easy for him in the Murray fight. He would like to have a fight where he's challenged for 12 rounds to see what we have. And me too, as a coach, I would also like that. Deep inside, I would like that. Of course, if it's a quick knockout, it's better for us, but we do have to prepare for. I thought back 3 years ago that Carl Froch, Julio Chavez, and Andre Ward were the guys that would take him 12 just because Andre's a great fighter. Carl Froch has that armsy style that could stay away from him, and Julio Chavez, by the time he stepped through the ropes, probably would be 195 pounds. So that's why I thought those three guys would be the 12-round guys. But he's doing his job, and nobody's been able to take him 12.
Well, every week we seem to hear another fighter say he wants to fight Gennady Golovkin. The latest one, I think, was Danny Jacobs. Are all these guys just pot-shotting from a distance so far, or is Team Golovkin actually getting some offers from these guys?
No, I think it's like when we were younger, when we were starting out as a champion. Obviously, we called out Floyd. We called out a lot of the bigger names because that's what you do as a young fighter. Yeah. You obviously want to be in there with the best that there is out there. I think Danny, now having a couple defenses under his belt, feels that he's ready. My answer to all those guys that are saying that is call Tom Loeffler. Tom Loeffler's phone is always open, and Tom Loeffler is willing to take any offers or any suggestions because we're having a heck of a time. Well, he's having a heck of a time trying to secure the next opponent. Obviously, Gennady's not looking past Willie, but Tom has to do the work ahead of us. And all those guys that are talking, just like Canelo winning against Kirkland the other night, if the public is clamoring for it, then let's take the fight. But Tom is the one that they need to be calling, not putting it out on the internet, because that does nobody no good. All that just, like I said before, is just trying to put your name out there.
Abel, what do you think a Canelo versus Golovkin fight would look like?
I think 3 or 4 months ago, I said the quota would only go 5 and Canelo wouldn't go past 8. I think that Canelo is not, I guess, seasoned enough. Is the word I want to use for a guy like Golovkin. He's not. I saw in the Kirkland fight him getting hit with clean shots by somebody that was just swinging wild.
Yeah.
But the fact is that he is a warrior. The fact is that he's strong. The fact is that he is an ex-world champion. The fact is he went 12 rounds with Floyd Mayweather. So he is very, very a very good fighter. So in order to test us and to test himself, those kind of fights need to be made. Whether they let it simmer a little bit, I don't know. But I look at it as a great fight. I look at it as now watching him beat Kirkland, I look at it as that could be our 12-round fight.
Now, you're also training an interesting heavyweight, I think. You've got a Cuban guy who thinks he's Irish.
Well, actually, I'm not training him anymore.
You're not training Mike anymore, okay.
No, Mike decided he wanted to be closer to his family in Ireland, and he's training in Ireland for this next shot at Povetkin.
Yeah.
So I wish him all the luck. Mike is a very talented fighter. He's going up against a guy that's proven. He went 12 rounds with Klitschko. He's a gold medalist. So Mike's got a fight on his hands. But like I said, Mike's got that Cuban school that is deep, and he'll put up a heck of a fight. We'll wish him all the luck.
Who's in your stable right now? Who should we watch for?
Right now we have Joel Diaz Jr., as I mentioned. Mm-hmm. We have Konstantin Ponomarev, who just fought on True TV the other night, a couple nights ago. Murat Gassiev, who is 21 or 22 cruiserweight, very, very good prospect. We have Denis Shafikov, who's fighting Mickey Bay in Macau in July. We have Najib Mohammedi, who's challenging Kovalev, also in July. 3 or 4 other young guys that are still on the way up, but we have a young, good crop of hopefully future champions.
Now, Kovalev is another guy that people kind of compare to Golovkin in that he's just a force of nature. How do you prepare Mohammedi for a guy like him?
Well, actually, Kovalev was my fighter for about 1.5 years. I took him from 10 fights to 18 fights. I had him for 8 knockouts. So that style that he's got is a style that was raised here in my gym. Kovalev is the type of guy that you have to attack, in my opinion. You can't let Sergey sit back and pot shot you because he's very strong. He's a hard puncher, and he's a great champion. I mean, he's done everything that we've asked of him, or the public has asked of him. So we're looking for a difficult fight, but Mohammedi and all the challengers to Kovalev, that's what they work for. That's what they struggle, and their careers go on, and they have fights, and they work to number one, and they look for that opportunity. We have that opportunity coming up in July. We're gonna prepare and hopefully dethrone I think they call him the Crusher, right? The Crusher. Who, along with Golovkin, is probably the best fighters in the world.
That would be a very, very big story if that happens. So, hey, before we let you go, our local fighter down here near Monterey, Paul Mendez, I know you know him. He's got a fight coming up next month in Salinas, probably in Salinas. He's a guy who hasn't lost in 4 years since he joined Max and Sam. Middleweight who has spent a lot of time in your gym, and he sparred with Golovkin. What are your impressions of Paul Mendez?
Well, I think Paul's biggest asset is Max Garcia. Max Garcia and Sam and Kathy have done the necessary things to propel him to the next level. They bring him out on their own dime. They bring him out to Big Bear, and he sparred with not only Golovkin but a lot of the other middleweights, super middleweights that we have here in the gym, and he has improved dramatically. Paul Mendez is on a roll. I think 3 or 4 more fights, he may be in the top 10 and getting some kind of opportunity for a title. But if Paul keeps his head on straight and continues to listen to Max and to Kathy and Sam, I think he's got a great chance to at least vie for a title, if not win one.
All right, man. Hey, always great talking to you. Thank you so much for being with us today, Abel.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and good talking to your listeners.
You too. Okay, and best of luck to Gennady and the rest of your guys, too.
Thank you very much.
All right. Abel Sanchez on the Ringside Boxing Show, and we are going to be right back after this break.